Hello everybody. We have been a little sick, and I thought we were just going to have a little discussion about what it has been that we have been, because I posted about being sick on social media maybe about a week ago. Quite a few people have just been asking, how are you doing? And I figured this would be the easiest way to address the many people that are asking how we're doing.
You're not going to copy and paste.
No.
I'm okay.
And the really short answer is we're doing okay-ish. We're not back 100%.
We are not 100% yet. What percentage are you at?
At the moment?
Yeah.
I don't. Is 100%? 100% is good. I'm probably like an 80% at this point. Like
I feel
it's not,
90.
I'm not gonna die. That's become very clear. But there were a couple of moments where I was feeling like, man, I don't know. This could take a left turn here, and it could be bad. So of course, the question on everybody's mind when you mentioned that you are sick in these troubled times that we all live in is, do you have COVID? And the answer to that question is probably not.
The answer to that question is low risk.
Yeah, the answer to that, low risk. So maybe we figured we would kind of explain what it is that what has happened for us, and just give everybody kind of an idea of what we've been through and everything, and to everybody to see kind of why this is a bit of an ambiguous answer to the "Did you have COVID?" question. The other thing that I kind of want to ask of people is I know people mean well, but a lot of people really want to try to give us diagnosis through just like, hey, these are a couple of things that we have been able to observe. But honestly, it's sort of frustrating to read, like, people, because
this has to be a universal thing where people find it frustrating when somebody tries to just tell them exactly what's going on that doesn't really have all of the information nor a degree of education.
And I know people mean well and stuff, but it can be frustrating. People are like, well, clearly this is the problem, and it's like there's no way you could really know that. Like, people can have hypotheses and stuff, and we have hypotheses of our own, but we kind of went through it and stuff. So, anyways, if you could
really
just not try to
just go and we have a hypothesis of our own and stop the video.
So, like, I mean, I'm all for discussion and stuff, but try not to like come off as like, well, you should have done this, and you guys aren't smart because you didn't do it the way I want, because you don't probably understand the entire circumstances, and we're going to try to explain that a little bit. So the basic situation was that we did a bike trip around Lake Biwa 2 weeks ago, I think now it's been. Yeah. And during that time, videos will be coming, by the way. We filmed the whole thing, and I'm really excited about that.
It was absolutely excellent.
During that time, you started to mention that you were sort of feeling a little unwell, but it was like little things that didn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, like I felt... And I just kind of thought to myself, it's probably because I'm working so hard on this bike every day.
I mean, that's not something we usually do.
We're riding 50 plus kilometers a day, and that's not something I normally do. So I just assumed some things that were going on in my body were just reactions to that exertion.
But you never had like a day of pure misery during that.
I had one day with a pretty bad headache and one night with night sweats. And
we just were but you never had a fever that we were aware of. Like when you went into like shops and stuff, you have to test your temperature with the screen that scans your temperature, all that stuff. So you didn't really have anything that was like screaming out like you're sick.
Yeah.
So then
we came back.
The Biwa trip ended. We came back. We did a live stream with Victor and Hiko.
I should explain that in the week that we were back, I also had other night sweats.
Oh, really?
And I just kind of assumed it was my body saying, hey, you went on a bike trip and you did all this stuff, and it's like still pumped up about that, or maybe I just had like not anxiety, but like my body was just reacting to something. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. And it's possible it was. We don't know. We really don't have a straight answer.
That's a full background there.
We did a live stream with Victor and Hiko, and that should be on the internet if you missed it. It was kind of fun. We just did like we got interviewed basically. Yeah. Just had a chat with these dudes, and that night I had an alcoholic beverage, and you had nothing. And correct. My alarm's now going off. Her alarm is going off. So we did this live stream, and then after the live stream, I started, like, as soon as we finished it, I started feeling terrible, like really bad.
Just it went downhill.
And like you said, you had something to drink. I did not.
And I just assumed I was getting kind of just really tired because it was like 12 o'clock when we finished that, and I had just had some alcohol, and I just assumed this is your body booting down.
You started kind of feeling a little rough at the same time, right?
I wouldn't say rough, just kind of exhausted.
So we went to bed. After the live stream, I took a shower and stuff because I felt weird. Just like I felt like, oh, this will reset me. Took a shower, went to bed, and it was terrible. Like I felt bad. Like I felt real bad. And when we woke up in the morning, if I recall, I was sick the entire day.
I woke up really early. I remember having like a knot in my stomach, and I attributed that to drinking. And I had a headache, and my body was just aching.
And we were both saying we felt hungover.
Yeah.
But I hadn't had any alcohol.
And I attributed the headache and the stomach problems to drinking one drink, which is like...
Well, it's a strong
I'm not trying
zero.
to make myself sound like an alcoholic, but I drink a lot more than that to have a hangover. And I don't have hangovers often. That's how you tell people you're not an alcoholic. So it seemed really strange, but I was attributing all that. So I'm attributing things to the bike, and then I'm attributing things to alcohol, and then you start feeling bad.
And the fact that we're both getting sick at the same time, we're like, wait, this is not regular. And we were having similar but not identical symptoms.
Yeah.
And the whole time we're taking our temperature like many, many times a day, and no fever. Our temperature is fine.
And I should note that we never get sick at the same time. If you are a regular watcher, you know that. Most of the time you're sick. And I am just doing whatever needs to be done to sort out things. And I've been sick once. But yeah, we're never sick at the same time.
That day was really rough for me. I felt really terrible.
I ended up canceling like plans that I had made a month before for a project I've been working on for months.
Yeah.
And
because we're like, wait, if we're both sick, look, that we could be sick. We could have COVID, or even if we don't have COVID, we've got something very clearly. It needs to not leave the apartment at this point. You know what I mean? So
everything got canceled, and we just sat on the couch all day.
Yeah, and then by the next day, I felt all right, and it was like pretty okay. But during the day that we were sick, we made contact with. They have a phone number in Japan that you can call for like.
This was on Sunday.
This
on
was
that Sunday.
Yeah,
when
the Sunday
we
woke up sick. You can call this number, and you can. It's like a COVID hotline basically, and you can explain your situation.
They call it the fever hotline.
The fever hotline, and then you tell them where you live, and then they can tell you where somebody local in your area is that can give you a PCR test. Essentially, that's what your goal is. So this is how this system works in Tokyo, and for us, it could be different for other people. It's a big place, but this is the road we went down.
So the hotline finds out we live in Asakusa, and the hotline says, "Hey, we've got a clinic. They speak English, and they also give out PCR tests."
That's two good things for us. That makes things really easy.
Wow. And so I look it up on Google Maps. It is a 5-minute walk away, and it closes in 55 minutes. So I'm like, awesome. We could totally make it there, and I'm just going to give them a call and make sure that this is a good idea.
Because if you think you have COVID, you don't want to go spreading it around town.
So I called there, I explained our symptoms. They were very caught up in the idea that we both had headaches. And in the end, the doctor ends up getting onto the phone. And he basically tells me that he's very busy. And he recommends that we go to a hospital that's 40 minutes away instead of going to his clinic. Not based on anything other than that they're really busy there and maybe the hospital can help you better. And he also told us, for some reason, since we don't actually live in Asakusa, we live over the river in Sumidaku,
it's like
other side of the river.
Literally a minute walk from the border of the
is Taitoku. River,
prefecture, ward.
2 prefectures.
Wards.
And he said, oh yeah, that's wards.
Yeah.
And he said, like, we couldn't understand what the limitation was that involved the wards, but he was just saying, yeah, since you live there, then then nothing was filled in.
There's a thing in Japanese where they will sometimes kind of be like, it's a bit difficult, and that really is a hard no.
Yeah.
But like once somebody starts like, well, it's a little tricky to do this or that, that's their way of giving a hard no. That could have been what was going on.
Yeah, true.
But we don't know.
So I just decided, like, if this person does PCR tests, I might push a little bit harder on what's going on here.
But he told you he doesn't.
So I asked him point blank, do you do PCR tests? And he said no. And I was like, okay, so that means this conversation is over.
So why did they give us that? Like, why did we get that contact? It's really strange.
So we don't know why the hotline sent us in that direction. But once the clinic turned out to be a bust, I did head down the road to understand the hospital that he had recommended.
Again, a 40-minute walk, and I was not walking no 40 minutes.
I thought about
that day.
getting
I felt
him
terrible.
A wheelchair, but then it's like, now you're going into another building.
Yeah. And, I think the responsible thing is to either walk and suck it up,
or call an ambulance,
or call a cab.
But dude, you're still with
and then
man.
you're with a guy. Yeah, like how do you do this?
So you can see the thought process that happens. But when I looked up the hospital said you need a reservation, so that means we need to call before we come there. And now that I think about it, they did have a COVID situation on the website. So we were wondering, did they do PCR tests there? They did. I remember reading on their website that they talked directly about COVID. But one of the things they said is you need a referral
from another doctor.
This happens in other countries where you need a referral to go to a specialist or whatever, but
now this
is different.
It's Sunday, and so medical places close down on the weekends. I was shocked we found anything open on Sunday at all. But it's Sunday, so in order to get to get anything going, you need to hurry before everything is closed.
Well, the hospital wasn't even open. The
hospital wasn't even open.
The
on
hospital
Sunday.
was not accepting reservations until 8:30 on Monday.
So then the next thing is you have to go to a regular doctor with your maybe COVID and sit in the waiting room, which is tiny because it's in Tokyo, and then get a note from that doctor who maybe will agree with you that you need to have a COVID test. I mean, maybe not, but you need to see a doctor. And then after that, you can go to the hospital that's 40 minutes away in a taxi cab. And like, it's just, we don't have a family doctor. That's not how things really work here. So it's not simple. Like, you have to go to a clinic to get a note, and like not ride any trains, and trying to stay socially distanced from people and not get other people sick. And like, it's just a complete disaster. So it's frustrating. So a lot of people have fed back to me like, hey, just get into PCR tests, and it's not that simple. Like, it's not an easy case.
At this point, we just completely knew that Sunday nothing was going to happen unless we called an ambulance. So, and I don't know, we never said that out loud, but I just thought to myself, if it gets bad, I was starting to have trouble
breathing, and by the end of Sunday, and I was thinking, like, if I feel like this in the morning, we have to go to a doctor. Like, we have to do something, because I was getting concerned that I was going to, like, I don't know what that level of escalation is like. So what ended up happening is, I guess Sunday night, this wouldn't be the most recent Sunday. This would have been the previous Sunday that this was all taking place, just for timeline purposes. I got onto like some foreigners living in Tokyo Facebook groups and stuff, and just asked like, hey, this is my situation. What did you guys do? Because when you Google it, it's really hard to find current information about like what steps there are to take, and it's because things have changed so much over this last year, and things, you have to type in like PCR test in Tokyo and you get something that's 3 months old, but it's like completely invalid information anymore. So I asked for people like, hey, what have you done recently? What is the situation? And a lot of people gave me a bunch of things that we could do. And one of them was that somebody had referenced us directly with a name to a place that will do PCR tests, where they come to your door and will give you a PCR test, which is really, like, that eliminates a lot of our problems as far as going out in public and getting references.
You can book it online.
You can book it online. It was really easy. You went down that road and did that. But during the process of going through all these things, what I found is what I keep referring to as COVID profiteers. And there are all of these places that are doing PCR tests, and then when you look at the website or whatever, it's like, if you have symptoms, we can't do your PCR test. This is for people who want to travel and have a clean certificate.
Or go to a particular job or something like that. They want access to something, and they have to prove they don't have COVID. So they need a PCR test and a certificate. Yeah. And they're selling these tests and certificates for like $500.
Yeah, well, I saw them, it seemed like a lot of them were around $200.
Oh, I saw some crazy
Yeah, some of them
stuff.
are more expensive, and it depends on what kind you need and all this stuff. And it's all over the map. And the reason that this has sort of happened, I think, is because the government has sort of just like, I don't want to go off the deep end with this, but I feel like the government here just doesn't want to report high numbers of COVID. So they have just made it difficult to get tests by making you jump through all these rings of fire so that people just go screw it and they just stay home and hope they don't die. Like, that really is what it feels like having been through this process. So what's happened is they've created this big hole in all these other companies that are like buying PCR tests from China and stuff. And God knows how well those work. I mean, I don't know. I'm getting into conspiracy territory here, but you know what I mean? Like, you can't rely on this stuff because these people are clearly doing it for profit because they're so expensive. And it is, when you're sick and trying to navigate all this, a very big frustration. And this actually isn't the first time we've been through this. Last August, I was using a contact tracing app, and I got it alerted me. It was like, you were near somebody who was sick. I was like, okay, what do I do? Push the button, and it was like,
I bet you that number's the fever hotline.
I don't know. It didn't work. Like, it said, do you have any symptoms? And I clicked the box, and I said no, and it said, okay, don't do anything. And I was like, well, I want to test. Like, you gave me an alert that said I was near somebody.
Asymptomatic.
Yeah, and that's what happened to me last August. So this has been a complete disaster. And in the end, I really feel like Japan really has no idea how many people are infected here. Like, the numbers are really not accurate. But anyway, that's
Jumping
me
off of that.
getting off of that train.
So I on Monday morning, I booked us a PCR test that would be brought to our place, administered, and I was able to book it in like a 3-hour window. So between the hours of 3 and 6, somebody was going to come and do a PCR test for us. And he arrived.
And it was really good, actually, like the way it went.
It was just like a dude. Like, he probably works for Uber Eats, outside of the hours.
He seemed like he was in a hurry, too, but like in a fine hurry.
You know what I thought was kind of interesting? You can get that test administered 24 hours a day.
Yeah, you can.
So there's one of those dudes, just, he doesn't work for Uber Eats. He also does that at nighttime.
The process was basically, he came and had 2 kits, and he handed us the kits. And then we took the kits, and he explained, like, okay, now open the kit, and then there's a couple of vials in there, and you got to open one vial and put this cap on there and blah, 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 and take this thing out, and then spit into this little dispenser. So then you spit into this, and your spit goes down into the little plastic area. And then you get it to a certain level. Yeah, you get it to you get enough spit in there, and then you take off the top, and you just put a little tab, like a little cap onto... No, you had to add another liquid.
Yeah, we had to add some sort of solution.
You opened that, poured that in there, and filled it all the way up. Then you sealed it. Yeah. And then you put your own label onto it so that you could be identified properly. Like, you have a specific number or whatever. And then you put it in a bag and seal it and hand him the whole bag. And then the whole thing. It's done in a way that's like pretty... I mean, you're there with a person, but you are doing all of the motions and touching all the things and stuff. So he is not completely germ-free, but it's done in a way that I think keeps him as safe as is feasibly possible. Yeah. And I feel like that was the best road to take, given the fact that we don't want to go out and infect the country.
The world, yes.
And so, how much did that cost? Each one was
3,000 yen.
3,000 yen.
Yes.
Okay, so that's about $27 or so. And
so then he left, and we knew that we would get a response within 24 hours by email, which I kind of thought was cool. Telephone sucks. Yeah. So that was... It
wasn't a fax either, which is great.
Yeah. Eric's results ended up coming in about 6 hours later, and it said... And I really expected to get a positive negative, but what this email said was, you are low risk. And then below that, there was so much liability stuff, like, we are not liable for this, and blah, 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 and this doesn't mean this, but you are low risk.
We didn't get anything that was like a certificate exactly, like we wouldn't be able to use this to travel. Like, that wasn't the level of expense that we paid for.
And what's weird is their whole website didn't have any of those certificates.
That's
so
fine.
It kind of
That's
seems
not really
like
what
this,
we were looking for.
Yeah.
But,
so we got your results after 6 hours, and then mine didn't come. And then it didn't come. And then we went to bed, and it didn't come. And maybe around 18 hours after taking the test, around 12 p.m., I finally got my results. And it said low risk. And
so we basically got 2 results that said low risk. So we kind of feel like if the tests are functional tests and everything, that's a pretty good chance that we don't have COVID, because we essentially took 2 tests, even though they were the same type. You know what I mean? But if one test was a mistake, what would be the odds that both of us would be mistaken? Yeah. So, and I think if one of us is sick with COVID, the other one of us is sick with COVID.
Like, the one thing that I read that stuck with me about, like, testing was that's a snapshot. In that snapshot right there, moment, you did not have COVID. Yeah. Okay.
Or did not have the enough for it to
So, you're not expressing enough of this response to a germ entering your body or whatever.
So since then, we had the one night where it was really bad for me, and then we've been kind of like sluggish and really tired, sleeping a lot, and like just kind of feeling blah. Not horrible, just blah. And then I had one more night at some point, like 5 days after the first night that sucked, that was really bad again, where I was having really severe chills. But then I woke up the next day.
You ended up having a fever.
Yeah, and we both had a slight. Did you have a fever that night?
I got up to 37.3. Do the math yourself. And you got up to 37.5. And I remembered telling you, we both determined that 37.7 was scary. Okay. And I stopped taking your temperature and told you to go to bed. Okay. I basically just gave you ibuprofen and was like, go to bed.
I woke up the next day and I felt kind of back how I was, just kind of blah, which is sort of how I feel right now, kind of blah. So aside from those 2 nights, we haven't had really bad symptoms or anything. You never really had anything horrible like I had with the chills.
On that same day that you got crappy, I also had really bad aches. It's almost like the germs know we both have them, like they're magnetic, and when one of them flares up, like the other person gets, which is me, gets a mild case of the achies.
Forgot to mention this when we were shooting the video. People have asked us quite a lot, did we ever lose our sense of taste or smell? And for the record, the answer is no. We've never lost our sense of taste. We've never lost our sense of smell. Those are hard things to say. Sense of smell, sense of taste. I'm not talking well. We've lost our sense of speaking. So aside from that, we've been staying home. We haven't been out. I took the trash down to the trash area twice, because otherwise it would be a problem. But you haven't left the apartment at all in this entire time.
I don't even know. Like, it would have been like the week before.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I haven't left since Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah, so April 7th, and today is now the 20th. So I haven't left the house in that time.
And my birthday was last weekend, and we just spent it chilling, chilling.
I came up with like all the things that I could do that were inside the apartment. I was able to make waffles. Yeah. Score. I made you little fezzes for your game. We definitely played video games. Yeah. And I made your favorite dinner. It was going to be lunch, but we made it for dinner. And we had Indian. All I do is food.
So that's what we did we had my birthday, and it was fine. It wasn't as good as like going to Disneyland or anything, which is we do that sometimes. But I don't know. Is there anything? I get that kind of is it. I just wanted to make a video that said we weren't dying, and it's now been.
Like the only thing that's like sitting with me is some migraines now. And normally I would really just tell you I have a headache. But it was definitely.
This weekend will be the 2 week mark from when I originally had symptoms. So I still haven't decided. Does that mean we're okay to go out? Like if. You know what I mean? Like, can I go to the grocery store and stuff? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, we have stopped going to the grocery store. All groceries
we've just
have
been having
delivered.
Them delivered. Yeah.
We ate a lot of takeout. Ooh, tomorrow's Wednesday.
Yeah.
We gotta order some food.
Yeah, so that's what we've been up to. I thought I'd make a short video, and then of course our short videos turned into 25 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, Katie, either you don't tell you don't string the thoughts together and you just blurt, or you tell people way too much information.
This was the perfect amount of information.
Was it?
I think so. But yeah, I hope everybody else is not feeling as like the way we feel. I hope you feel better than we've been feeling.
And hopefully getting some vaccinations and.
Yeah, that's a whole other story here.
It's a whole other story here.
Short of it is, they aren't vaccinating very many people here.
Nope, 1,000 a day.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that bad anymore, but it certainly is not great. But anyway, that's our story about being sick. And I'm going to push the stop button now.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.